Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I have another exciting show for you tonight, explaining one of the very complicated portions of the criminal justice system. It's called a writ of habeas corpus. And a person files a writ of habeas corpus when they've been convicted of a felony offense or any crime, and it basically means to let my body free. Tonight's title of the episode is Exonerated by DNA, but still in prison. And I have a guest in the studio tonight, Ms. Copeland, whose brother has been affected in such a way. He was convicted in 1990 of a sexual assault or rape that allegedly occurred in 1988. He went to trial. He was convicted of rape, and he got a life sentence. He's still in prison today. So he was sentenced in 1990 and still in prison as of 2012. Let me tell you some of the interesting features about this case. First of all, there were two witnesses that basically said that they saw her brother, Chilette's brother, drag a girl into an abandoned building. They called the police, and I guess they were kind of caught in the act. Her brother and the young lady, were coming out of the building together, and she said that he raped her. A part of a rape kit, when a lady says she's raped, is they take them to the hospital, and they do what we call a rape kit. That is, a nurse or a doctor combs through their pubic hairs, goes through their pubic area and checks for semen, strange hair fibers or follicles, and that evidence, that forensic evidence, is maintained forever, really. And this happened in '88, and it's still being maintained today. But back in 1988, we did not have the sophisticated scientific evidence called DNA. What they did was something more hypothetical. So basically, the police officers and the doctor said that there is a white substance in her panties, and that she went straight to the hospital. She didn't take a shower or a bath. She had the same underwear on. There was a creamy white substance that the doctor believed was DNA in her panties. And basically, that's the evidence against him. She said he raped her and that she had not had sexual intercourse with anyone in the past 72 hours. So that was the basic evidence to the police. That was also the evidence that the complainant testified to in court under oath. She had not had sex in more than 72 hours, which is 3 days. So her brother, Chilette's brother, was convicted, and he was given a life sentence. So let me just kind of go through the dates. So he was convicted February 7th of 1990, and he appealed his case. He lost it in October of 1990. And then, with the sophistication of DNA and all of the wrongful convictions, our Texas legislators, and I believe it was spearheaded by State Senator Rodney Ellis, that created a new chapter in our Texas Code of Criminal Procedure where inmates, or anyone, but generally it was for inmates, who were in prison, incarcerated, could file a Chapter 64 DNA and request DNA testing paid for by the state if they would allege that they were wrongfully convicted, because DNA technology did not exist in the past. So Chilette's brother did that. From prison, he filed a Chapter 64 writ of habeas corpus requesting the state of Texas, if they still had the biological material, to test it. That evidence was tested, and it was found that her brother did not give the semen sample. That was not his DNA. It was not his sperm, but yet sperm was there. The state of Texas then got an affidavit from the complainant, and this is in 2002. So that is what, 22 years later? They get an affidavit from the complainant, and she admits that she had had sexual intercourse with her boyfriend that same day. Even though the evidence showed that it was not her, the DNA showed it was not her, the semen was, showed it was not Chilette's brother, the semen was not his semen. The girl said she lied under oath in trial by saying that she had not had sexual intercourse in 72 hours, in the past 72 hours. She admitted 22 years later that she had had sexual intercourse with her boyfriend. With that overwhelming evidence, Chilette's brother is still in prison. The district court, the 177th District Court, with another judge back in 2002, 2003, denied the writ of habeas corpus, which means that even though we have this new evidence, I still believe that he raped her. It went back to the Court of Appeals. They affirmed that decision. So he's still in jail today with another writ being filed for newly discovered evidence. And that writ is still pending. I think it's very interesting that someone lied about that and that they did not reverse it, because what we hear in the news with the Innocence Projects and other projects is that a person gets out. When they find that it wasn't their DNA, they usually let them out. And I'm just curious to know, if anyone's watching, I would like for you to call in and weigh in on why you believe one of our Texas courts would not let someone out of prison when they know it's not their DNA, when they know that the complainant lied about having sex with someone else, and basically lied about what happened. I just want to know what you feel about it. And I have Chilette, who loves her brother very much, in the studio, and I want to ask her her opinion. So Chilette, I know this is a very serious, painful situation for you since your brother has been in prison since 1990, but how do you feel about the fact that he was not freed when the DNA came back not to belong to him?
I was very saddened that they would just sweep this under the rug because they made a mistake and they won't allow my brother to be back home with me. And I knew all along that he was innocent of this, but I didn't have the money at the time to hire an attorney for the case to help him. So it was like he was just thrown, I felt like he was just thrown out there to the dogs. He was basically, you know, just, they didn't believe anything he said. They didn't want to hear the truth. And they figured, well, he's just another young black male. That's the way I look at it. But the young lady that accused him of this, she does not realize that she took 25 years of my life as well, because we missed out on my children growing up, his son growing up, his grandchildren, you know, Christmas, everything, you know, was gone. It was taken away from us behind a lie.
How old was he approximately when he went to prison for this? Do you remember?
I believe he was like 24 years old.
And who's the oldest of you two?
I am.
Okay. And you were raised together in foster care, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had a really sad upbringing, so he was very special to you.
Yes, he was, and he still is.
Tell me about your special relationship when he was a child and how you actually took care of him when you went through different stressful situations.
Well, he was my baby. I looked after him as a mother would look after her own child that she bore. So, you know, I made sure that he ate, he was dressed. I kept him out of trouble as much as I could. You know, I would scold him just like a mother would, you know, her own child that she had. That was my baby.
How old were the two of you when you were put in foster care?
We were babies.
Okay. And how much difference is your age?
A year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if he went to prison at 24, you were 25?
Yes.
And describe your foster care upbringing.
Horrible.
So you were raised as babies in foster care. Do you remember how often you were shuffled around?
Yes. We were taken as infants from my mother, and we were our first home, that adopted home that we was adopted into, we were like 2. 2 and 3 years old. And that home, which I loved, and so did he, but my adopted father drove for a Shell chemical company, and he was on the road a lot, so we were left in the home with his wife, which his wife turned out to be abusive. We were there in their home for maybe 2 years.
Now tell me what you mean she turned out to be abusive.
Well, she would physically abuse us. She would, when he wasn't there at the home, she would beat us. She would fix food that we didn't like, and we were forced to eat it. And when we threw it back up, we were forced to eat the stuff that we had thrown back up. She tried to drown us in the bathtub. It was just horrible.
Wow.
I remember.
So, tell me what you remember. I'm sorry.
I remember when we were small. Actually, I'm afraid of dogs right today, big dogs, because she had her sitting out on the porch one Sunday evening, and she gave us meat chicken to eat, and she turned this bulldog loose on me, and I ran down Country Road in Crosby, Texas, running away from this dog, which he caught me, and he bit me on the inside of my left thigh, just mangled me and chewed me up. I stayed in Bentall for weeks, undergoing shots and all kind of stuff, in my stomach, and it was just... He was horrified when he found out about it, and the adopted father, and he called the state to their attention and said that he could not be there with us all the time because he was a truck driver, and that he knew that his wife was physically abusing us, and he requested the state to take us back into their custody.
Approximately how old were you and your brother at that time?
About 5, 6 years old.
And from that foster home or adoptive home, was it an adoptive home?
It was adopted foster home.
Adoptive foster home. From there, where did y'all go?
We went with the family of Paul and Thelma Broussard, which lived in Fifth Ward, Texas. We were there until we was about 10, 12 years old, and they were an older couple, but we loved them to death. We called them Grandma and Grandpa. And I think they were in their late 70s or 80s, and we was removed from the home because of their age.
Okay. So that was a loving, stable home.
Yes, it was.
No abuse?
None.
Were there other kids in the home?
We were the only 2 at the time.
So y'all stayed there a significant amount of time,
Yes,
what, about
yes.
5 or 6 years?
Yes.
And then because of their age, you were removed, and where did you go from there?
From there, we went to a foster home. I recall the lady's name, Miss Spikes, but it was just for a short period until they found us something that was more permanent. So I knew it wasn't that long, but from there, we went to Lark and Ruby Pipkin's home. They lived in Sunnyside, Texas, and all I can tell you is, my God, I mean, it was horrible.
Oh, that's a horrible home.
That was the most horrible place.
Were there other children there?
Yes, there was.
How many?
At that time, it might have been 5 or 6 other children there in the home. Most of the foster children there were female children.
Okay. And tell me why you described that home as being so horrible.
Well, we underwent a lot of physical and mental, verbal abuse there.
Could you describe the mental or verbal abuse?
She sexually abused me herself. She allowed her husband to sexually abuse me. There were times she had to know each time that the sexual abuse was going on. She wanted to be aware of it, and she beat me and my brother. She chained my brother down to naked box spring. Back in those days, they didn't have mattresses. They had the box springs, and
that were metal, like
that were metal, right? And she tied him down as if he in a cross form, hands or feet. Legs got wide open, and there were shutter doors that were made inside the wall that you could slide to close. which kept padlock on that door when we were in the home. It was locked. He couldn't go to I had to feed him. At that time, they had those huge 5-gallon coffee cans, which he had to defecate in it. I had to hold his private while he peed in the can.
Wow.
He was beaten because she hated the male figure for whatever reason. But
like the male genitals, she hated them?
yeah,
Wow.
she beat him until he would just, scream, and I had to watch. The other children had to watch. Her husband, on one occasion, had sex with me one Easter morning before church, and she was still at the church, was right across the street, and she walked in on it, and I remember she stayed up all night making me a 2-piece purple outfit, and today I don't like purple because of that, because I had that outfit on when he pulled me to the back room to have sex with me. So when she walked in and caught him, she got angry with me and said that why would I allow his worms to crawl on the inside of me, and I should have been ashamed of myself for letting him do that to me. But she was only angry because she wasn't there to witness it. Now, her brother, which has passed away at this time, if I'm allowed to give his name.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want
His
to say.
name was Robert Galley, and he also had sex with me, but he had to pay her money each time he wanted to have sex with me. And there was a lot of times that he had sex with me in front of my brother. We was never taken to the doctor. I know twice I was pregnant, and she done home abortion on me with a coat hanger. She would, fondle me, and she would kiss me, and she drank Schlitz beer, and she smoked the no-filter cool cigarettes, and I could still taste, right today I could still taste her putting her tongue on the inside of my mouth. I could actually taste the tobacco and alcohol.
God bless you. That is just awful.
It was real, real bad. I took that abuse. We couldn't visit anyone. We had to go to school, come back home each day, and we cleaned. I didn't know what it was to have friends. I didn't know what it was to sit down and watch TV like normal children. We never had Christmases or birthdays or anything like that. It was sexual abuse. When we got home, we had to clean up. Spick and span. There were times when I was forced to clean neighbors' homes on their demand. How I went to school and my brother went to school was just awful. But what bothers me a lot is that the state, we're talking about the state system that actually placed children, that they don't look into these homes like they should, because I didn't know what it was to be taken to the doctor for a physical or to the dentist or anything like that. They get paid to do this. And I never knew that until I became an adult, that these foster parents actually get paid to take care of these children. And we were dolled up when the caseworker had visits. We was dolled up like Miss Princess or Mr. Prince. And they had no idea, but we were so frightened because we were always threatened that if we told anyone about what was happening into their home, that we would be split up, and what the abuse that I was getting would be 3 times as worse.
That's just so awful. It's so awful, Shalette. May I take a break and take a call?
Sure.
Caller, you're on. Thank you for calling, and please turn your radio down or your TV down.
Yes, I would just like to send my, I won't say condolences to the sisters, but what she went through is was horrific. And, for her to have the strength to come out and to say this on TV like that, I commend you for it. And, it's a sad situation. But you know, it seemed like you're a strong woman. I'm glad that you seem like you got yourself together and you sharing your brother's story, which is a good thing. And because my daughter would touch me. My daughter a couple of days ago asked me. She told me, "Well, Dad, I'm gonna go. I got an appointment to see a psychiatrist." I was like, why? And she happened to go into a foster system for a little while with her mother because her mother had whooped her brother one day, and then they took them out of the house and they put them in the foster care house or whatever. So I asked her, you know, is the reason why because you went to a foster care? This was like 2 days ago. And it was like, is it the reason why you went to foster care? And she's like, well, that has something to do with it. And then I was like, in my heart, I knew she was talking about she'd been abused. You know what I mean? Sexually abused.
Your daughter said that?
Yeah, my daughter, 2 days ago.
I'm so sorry.
2 days ago, she called me.
I'm so sorry about that.
And she was like, well, how you feel about me going to talk to a psychiatrist? And I was like, you know, I was like, she was like, the reason why I'm going to do it because it's a stranger. I was like, well, you have no friends, you could tell me. She's like, well, she didn't want to tell me what's going on, but I know that it has something, it's something, you know what I mean?
To do with that foster care, is that what you think?
Say it again?
Do you think it has to do with her going into that foster care, or what do you
She said
think?
it was a part of that. She said it was, and I know it has something to do with it.
Wow, so it's so interesting how Shalette is telling the story, and it's such a story that's so close to home with you.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter? How old is your daughter, baby?
My daughter, she just graduated. She just graduated high school, and I wasn't able to be there. She just graduated like a month ago. Well, about 3 weeks ago.
Let Shalette say something. She wants to say something to you.
Brother, let me explain something to you. I don't care how much treatment that she gets, the damage that has been done, it would never heal her inside. Because I'm in my 50s, and I went through psychiatrists after one, after another, and I was overbearing with my children because of this. When they were little, before they started walking, I was teaching them about touching. I never trusted anyone with my girls or with my boys. I never let them go and spend the night with anyone because I knew the dangers out there and what I had went through. And I never trusted their father or any family member, nobody around them whatsoever. So it doesn't matter. It might help her some to talk about it. And they say talking heals. It heals a little bit, but I'm still suffering every day behind that. What happened to me?
Let me just add this to you, too, brother. A lot of females have been sexually abused, not to the extent of Shalette because of the awful foster situations they've been in, but even with trusted family members like uncles or babysitters, even when you're in a loving home that your mother can't watch you 24 hours a day, it happens. So I would think about, probably 40% of all females have had some type of inappropriate sexual touching. I do agree with Shalette that you never get over it, but I'd ask you as her father to tell her you love her, you support her, and never say anything negative to her about it, and encourage her to talk because some people are cured by talking. Shalette's situation is so rare because she was abused from the time she was a baby, and she's never known that she was loved. That's a totally different situation from your daughter knowing she's loved. When you've never been loved, ever, then you can...
And also, I told her, like, I knew, like, with her mother, we used to have situations. At the time, I met her mother in Michigan. We moved to Atlanta, and I didn't like her family members, and I knew, and I tried my best to, like, to be in her life, and I knew that it was, I knew that my daughter, if she be around them, I couldn't trust them. I didn't want, like she said, I didn't want her around them, period.
Now, is your daughter in a different state than you are?
Yeah, I'm in Houston now, but she's in Michigan.
So that's why you can't protect her because you're out of...
I couldn't, but this is the thing. In Atlanta, I tried, I was in Atlanta. When her mom got pregnant, we was in Michigan. I moved to Atlanta. her mom, when she had her, she moved to Atlanta with me. We was going to be together, be a family, but didn't work out. And then I was younger, and I was, you know what I mean, I did some, I don't say abusive things to her mother, but verbally I used to say some things to her mother because, I mean, I didn't like her family members because I knew I didn't say they was dirty, but, and it was a tug of war between me and her family members. I'm trying to keep her away from her family members. And I think there's a lot of stuff that my daughter really wasn't in a foster home. I think it has something to do with her family, her mother's family. And one time, you know, when I had, because, all right, they had moved back to Michigan, and I was in Atlanta feeling guilty, like, man, I need to be with her. So I moved to Michigan. I moved back. And it didn't work. They were just always interfering with us. They was always, you know, they didn't like me because I didn't want them around them like that because I knew what they was. But I just got one question, and I'm going to get off the phone.
Yes, okay. Because we got to take another call, but go ahead.
All right. Was the family black or white the foster family?
They were African American.
Black.
I know it wouldn't make a difference, but
she was in all black families. Back in those days, they only
with the lady, and she was living across from the church, and the one got mad at her.
Yeah, in those days, they always placed black kids in black families. Okay. All right. So, Shalette, at least you understand that other people are going through difficulties. Not that you want to hear that, but you can be the strength for someone to, you know, face what his daughter is going through. So,
right.
You know, because a lot of men, I think, sometimes don't know what to do, so they do nothing. But I think it's a good idea that his daughter knows that he loves her in spite of the fact that, you know, she's been through that. And I think, young man, you should tell your daughter you love her often, that you wish you would have been with her, and that in the future you'll make it up to her. You know, invite her to come live in Houston and try to make it up to her.
And that be available for her to talk no matter what time of day or the night is.
And try not to be judgmental. I understand you were young and you didn't like your girlfriend's family, but sometimes you should just be quiet. You know, sometimes I think one of the things in society that we do is we talk too much and we don't, you know, we don't listen. And sometimes your daughter just needs you to listen. So listen and, you know, just listen. That's what I would suggest you do. And tell her you love her and just listen to her and let her vent, and she'll work through it. And still, because I think with girls, when they've been sexually abused, they need to just know that they're whole and they're good people and they still deserve love. Because love is so hard to find for black women in many cases. A lot of times we don't feel that we deserve it because we don't get it. We don't get spoiled, particularly if you've been sexually abused. So, you know, your self-esteem is low. A lot of girls who are sexually abused as teenagers become prostitutes or very promiscuous. So what you want to do is just work with her and tell her she's important and it wasn't her fault that someone took advantage of her. So Shalette, continue to tell us about where you went from your foster situation. You said that you were being horribly abused.
Yes.
And you said that you believed that Mr. Pipkin, the father in the figure there who drove trucks, told the state that y'all could no longer be there anymore.
Yes, actually, I still have paperwork from the state of Texas where he did request and told them that he knew that his wife was abusing us and that he could not protect us and that he wanted it to be, as children, he wanted to protect us. And the best thing was to turn us back over to the state, which he hated, but he knew that was the best thing to do.
And how old were you then?
We were about 5 or 6 years old at that time.
All right. So I think we went through the abuse by, I think I changed people by saying the wrong name. Talk about where you left off, where, you know, like the lady who made you the purple outfit and you were being raped then. How old were you then?
We went into her home, I think maybe we was around 2, in the 2nd grade. Mm-hmm. So we was like 7 or 8 years old. So it went on for a long time. Okay,
and how did you get out of that situation?
I ran away.
Okay, and how old were you when you ran away?
14, 15.
Okay, and what happened? Where'd you go?
On my own.
So you lived
I got
on the
a
street?
job. I got a job, yes, and I took care of myself.
Okay. So how at 15 or 14 could you get an apartment and take care of yourself?
You have to go through that?
Yes.
Well,
You did what you knew how to do.
I had to do what I had to do.
Okay. So you basically worked at a club.
I worked at a club, and I don't want to really get into it,
Right.
but I did. I worked at a club to
And so-
survive.
And even though you were a teenager, a young girl, 14, you worked at a club, paid for your own apartment. So who would rent an apartment to a 14-year-old?
Back there, all they cared about was money. They didn't care.
Okay. So you worked at a club, you had your own apartment. So basically you worked at night.
Yes,
And you quit school.
yes. I quit school when I ran away, but when I got on my own, I worked at night and I went back to school.
Did you go back to high school?
No, I got my GED, and I went to college so I could become a nurse.
Now tell me about, now at 14, you have your own place, you're working at a club at night. What happens with your brother? Your brother
I
that
took
is...
my brother to work with me.
Okay, let's hold on. Let me ask the question. What happened with your brother when you left him in foster care? And this is the brother that was exonerated with the DNA. So tell me, how did you get him from where he was to where you were?
Okay, they actually, before I ran away, she had him removed from the home because we were getting older and he was as well. And I guess that she did not want to see the whatever else that she coming for me, for him to see it. So she made up a lot of stories
What do you
with
mean
the
by
state. She lied and said that my brother would tear up her furniture. He was just an unruly child. He would do this and he would do that. And she wanted him removed from the home. So
What do you think about that?
I thought it was awful.
So when she wanted him removed, where'd he go?
He was placed into another foster home.
And what happened from there?
The abuse got real, real bad, sexual abuse.
Now that is of him?
No, with me and in the home.
Now, no, what I'm trying to skip to is the sexual abuse you had, you ran away and got on your own. So what I'm trying to figure out is how did your brother, you said you took care of him, how did he get from the home to get, from the foster home to get in the home with you?
I actually had him AWOL. He AWOL from the
AWOL
foster.
is a military term.
No, well, AWOL mean well with the state. That's what they do. That's how they say it.
Right, but I just want to make this comment. AWOL is a military term that's also being used in the foster system.
Exactly.
And what did it mean to you? What did he do? Did
I
he
took my brother. I removed my brother.
Did you take him from the school? I'm trying to
I
physically.
took him from the home.
Okay, so what happened? I mean, did you knock on the door? Did you sneak him out of the window?
I told him where to meet me, and I met him there, and I took him.
And how old were you guys then?
I was about 16, so he had to have been right at 15.
Okay, so how long had you guys been separated at that time?
Oh, for about a year and a half.
But you kept up with where he was?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And it was many times that the Smiths I called and asked, could I come and, spend a night with him, and spend time with him, which they allowed that, but they would never allow me to spend a night there because they did not want to get in trouble. So therefore, that wasn't good enough for me. I want him with me. I wanted him to be with me.
Okay, so you had him sneak out of the home, pack some clothes. I'm going to catch up with you on this corner, and we're going to ride the bus to my new place. Is that what happened?
Well, actually, he didn't pack any clothes. I just told him where to go, and I met him there, and it went from there. I bought with him whatever he needed.
Okay. And so when you worked at night at the club, would you send him to school, or were y'all hiding because y'all were AWOL?
Yeah, well, we was hiding.
Okay. So you were hiding, so he couldn't go back to school?
No.
So what did he do all day?
But during the day, he was with me. We hung out, watched TV. I cook. I love to cook. And when it was time for me to go to work, I caught the bus. I caught a ride, and he was there.
So he went to work with you at the club?
Yes. Yes.
And what would he be doing?
He would be. He would be in the back.
Okay. All right. So tell me, at what point he started getting in trouble? You know, how did, because some people think there's a nexus or a connection between someone getting in trouble and being abused as a kid. Tell me what happened. Were you ever in trouble?
No.
Okay, so.
I did fight a lot.
Okay, because you had anger issues.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
fought it
understandable
out.
that you'd be angry.
Yeah, I fought it out when we were in school in the last foster home before we were split up. I did a lot of fighting.
Now, was the fighting to students or to other children in the home or to the foster parents? Who was it to?
The children at school, because we were teased a lot.
Okay, and what were you teased about?
The way we were dressed, our appearance, you know, because we wasn't fixed up. Hair comb, he never went to the barbershop, so it was basically on our appearance. They teased us a lot.
Okay.
So I fought for myself as well as him.
But he's a boy. He could fight for himself.
He was.
Tell me about that.
He was scary.
Okay.
He was a scary kid. He always let them beat them up, so I wasn't going to let anyone bully him.
Okay, so you were the big sister always doing the fighting.
Indeed.
So, but tell me, so did you get, well, you never got in trouble, but did he get in trouble as a juvenile?
Yes, he did, and that was, we're around 17, 18. As normal young male still, they like to hang out on the corner and drink beer or hang out with their boys, you know, till late at night or whatever. And I didn't approve of that because he was my child in my eyes, so I was scolding, you know, you don't hang around with this person, you don't hang around with this person, I want you in at this time, and, you know, it was sort of like that, so I could keep an eye on him. And, yeah, when he got in trouble for marijuana and whatever, I had an attorney and, you know, got him out of it. It's just mischief, you know, just hanging around drinking and smoking.
So tell me about the case now. So he gets a rape case, and he gets life in prison for that rape case. Did you do any personal investigation back then? I know it was in 1988, and it was a long time ago, but can you remember investigating and figuring out what is this rape case all about?
Exactly, I did. And at that time, I had dropped him off at the unemployment office here in 3rd Ward. And I told him that when he was finished, for him to call me so I could come back and pick him up. Well, I was very familiar with the area in Old Riverside Hospital, which was abandoned, and when it was broken out, I guess, but you could actually see directly into this building.
Let me stop you there. The alleged rape that happened, that he got convicted and got a life sentence for, was at the Riverside Hospital, and Shaletta's describing what it looked like. It was abandoned, you could see through it, it was being kind of torn up and vandalized, really.
And there was no roof on the building at all.
Okay.
So, you know, yes, when I started doing my little investigation, I was like, okay, it's no way in the world someone could go in that place and not be seen by someone else that this young man, this woman was walking inside of this place because it was wide open. North, east, south, or west. You could see all the way in there in every room that was there because it didn't have a roof. So, no, I did not believe the rape occurred at all there, which they say they did. When I went there, I walked around in there. There was broken glass everywhere, but, you know, everyone could see me walking in there from spot to spot. So it was like, that was crazy in the broad daylight. That's impossible. That would have been very impossible.
Right, right. I understand what you're saying. On the Chapter 64 motion that he filed, let me review the facts again. This happened in 1988. Shalette's brother was accused of rape, and he was convicted in February 7th, 1990. October 28, 2002, he filed for a Chapter 64 DNA writ of habeas corpus to get the DNA tested. He filed a motion requesting the DNA be tested. The court appointed a lawyer for him, and in one of the rare cases, the DNA came back that it was not his. He was 99.9% excluded from it. So now here the state has this situation. This man has been in prison since 1990. It's 2002, and they find out that he's excluded. The complainant has testified under oath that she hadn't had sex with anyone over the last 72 hours. Remember, he went straight from this Riverside Hospital, this abandoned place, he and her. She went straight to the hospital. She had never changed underwear, so the state had taken clippings of her panties, and the doctor actually saw white semen flowing from her vaginal cavity. So the implication in 1990 during the trial was that it was Fred, it was her brother's. So, but yet other evidence came up that it wasn't hers. And then 22 years later, she signs an affidavit saying that, yes, I had sex with my brother, had sex with my boyfriend that same day. So she signed an affidavit saying that she lied under oath back in 1988 by saying that the only person that the semen could possibly be would be Shalette's brother, because she hadn't had sex with anyone in 72 hours. So now she's saying, yes, I've had sex with someone that day, and it was my boyfriend. So the status of, so then the state, the judge looks at the writ of habeas corpus, which is called, it's under the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 11.07, and the judge still, with this overwhelming evidence of innocence, denies the writ, and Shalette's brother is still in jail. But through a lot of protesting, he was able to get a second lawyer appointed to him that is filing another writ based on the DNA evidence and requesting that the boyfriend give some of his DNA. I think that's kind of the status. He doesn't necessarily have to, but I think they're trying to find the boyfriend of 22 years ago. Well, actually, it's more than 22 now. Yes. Is it, how long is it?
Actually, I think it's like 25.
Like 25 years
25.
ago. Yeah, like 25 years ago, and seeing if he would voluntarily give some DNA. But the awful thing about it is that, you know, he's still in jail. He's still in prison. And that the courts are just keeping him in jail. I guess they don't want to deal with the fact that they solved this crime incorrectly. We've been joined in the studio by lawyer Tina Watson, who's also a candidate for a judge in Fort Bend County. Tina, I know you're just coming into this. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about what you've heard about the case so far, and what you think about the fact that it's not his DNA, she lied, and that a judge still denied it, and he's still in prison.
Well, those facts are very alarming. I know that in some jurisdictions, specifically in Dallas, the district attorney is actually leading the charge on a lot of those cases. And in fact, the DA, with that amount of evidence and with the DNA evidence, is actually saying this case should be dismissed, or at least looked at more closely, or a new trial. So I am surprised that, given that information, and I'm not sure what jurisdiction this is.
This is in Harris County.
Want to point fingers, but you know, there are district attorneys' offices that are doing what the Code of Criminal Procedure says, and that is making sure that justice is done. And in this particular case, it appears that this is an actual innocence case. He did file his writ under 1107, which is the habeas corpus, meaning that in fact he is innocent. That is what he's alleging. And it sounds like it should be something that should be looked at very closely. If not by the judge, then obviously by the district attorney's office as well.
Let me take a call. Caller, you're on. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Yes, how you doing, Miss King, Sister King?
Hey, baby, how are you?
I'm doing fine. You know, I'm your number one fan. You know, I listen to you every Wednesday. I missed you a couple of weeks after work. This is my favorite show, and so you got what you call it a feminine tone. But I can't help but watch it. I might not never need a return if I'm going to use you, but
Thank you.
I might never need a return if I do, I'm going to use you, but I'm going to watch the show every week.
Thank you, baby.
I worked on it.
All right.
Okay, I got a question for, let me say hello to Tiana. Is that Tiana?
It's Tina.
Hello.
Tina Watson.
Okay. Okay, then to Miss Copeland, was the accuser of your brother, was she black or white?
I didn't know.
I hang up and listen.
The complainant, no, baby, was the alleged victim black or white?
Oh, she was black.
It happened at Riverside in 3rd Ward. She was black.
Oh, okay.
So
he got life?
He got life. He's still in prison.
Oh.
He's still in prison. This was in 1988. He is still in prison.
That's sad commentary, but I'm glad that Ms. Copeland, got the strength, to come on and tell a story. And I appreciate your show. I'm watching you every week.
And make sure you tell other people to watch. You know I'm running for judge. And this why we need to have more judges that are fair. We also need to all get involved in the criminal justice system because we can change it. I mean, we can do some fair things. A fair judge can grant his writ. But when you have a one-party system where, you know, it's all Republicans, not enough Democrats, you know, you don't mix it up a little bit, have different ideas, different points of view. And young people who are affected by the criminal justice don't seem to vote, and you can start voting at 18, and we need for people to vote and get involved. Don't you agree with me, caller?
Yes, of course I agree with you. You know, you got my vote. Let me ask you a question. Do you know Hazel Jones?
Absolutely.
Okay, she's a friend of mine. We grew up together, you know, went to church together. You know, I know her parents and her brother.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She had great parents, a great brother, and she was a prosecutor in the district attorney's office after me. I would like to say that I was one of her mentors, but she's a great judge, and she's a nice person. Thank you for calling, and call us next week, okay? Okay,
yeah, you got my vote number. I'm going to keep, you know, campaigning for you.
Thank you.
We're friends on Facebook, so you see my comments on that.
Okay, well, I don't look at it often. I have my legal assistant do it, but make sure that you see my number at the end of this telecast and call my office and let me know who you are, okay?
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. One thing I want to read at the bottom of the memorandum that was written by the great lawyer that's doing the writ for Shallett's brother. Her name is Ann Lee Mosley. She's a really smart lawyer. She was a prosecutor for many years, but she's doing this writ. And she says that the state of modern DNA testing has led to the exoneration of many wrongly convicted people in Texas and nationwide, alluding to what Tina just talked about, in that the district attorney in Dallas is actually recommending that people be exonerated, but that's not happening here. After all, the central purpose of any system of criminal justice is to convict the guilty and free the innocent. This applicant, which is Shallett's brother in this case, has shown by modern DNA testing that he's actually innocent of the crime he's convicted of. And I wanted to write that because that's the way she ended the memorandum in support of the writ of habeas corpus, to let Shallett's brother free. Let's just hope that the current judge that's sitting and presiding over this case can see it for what it is. Another point that I want to make is that in the trial, Shallett's brother did not testify. So when you are not guilty of something, all you need to do is plead not guilty and then let the state try to prove it. Yes. And Tina, we're about to close. I think my note is saying 10 minutes. So I know you haven't had much airtime. Do you want to make any comments about this?
Well, I think that last comment is very important. Our system is designed, quite frankly, where a few guilty people, and yes, I said it, are supposed to be able to get off so that an innocent person is not convicted of a crime. In other words, that is due process, that is fairness, that is the presumption of innocence, and that is how our system is based. And when you have something like this, you realize there's a failure. There's a failure in the criminal justice system, and we have the science now to cure those failures, and it's very sad that the process is not correcting itself. Because that's exactly how the system is designed. It's very unfortunate. The district attorney in Dallas, who has brought some of these cases, happens to be Democrat, African-American, young man, who probably as a result of experiences in his life and what he saw as a criminal defense attorney, because he was one before he was a prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, and now he's a DA, saw these cases for what they were.
But let's flip, since we don't have much time, and let's talk about our own jurisdictions. You're in Fort Bend, so you can have a little bit more latitude in talking about Harris County. Why do you think in Harris County our district attorney would not be more vigilant in you know, agreeing that he's innocent of this charge? I mean, why? What politically? Let's just say if we're afraid to, even though it's a free speech show, to just say anything specifically, we know the deal. Why do you think that politicians or our DA wouldn't say this?
Well, I think it's important that the district attorney, if they believe in their science, and DNA is science, then if you believe in it to convict somebody, you should believe in it to exonerate somebody. So,
and I think what's sad for me is that many times when I have a sexual assault case or a rape case that's pending, we wait on DNA. We wait on the DNA, and if the DNA doesn't come back to that person, the case is dismissed. So that's what's really sad now, that the science the biological material was maintained, it was tested, and it's not him.
Exactly.
Let him go.
Exactly.
Let's take a call. Caller, you're on.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, I heard you talking about the young man that's still in prison for rape he did not commit.
Yes, sir.
And I wonder why you all they don't go to the that foundation with Barry Sheck and
I think he's written them. Shalette, hasn't he written the Innocence Project?
Yeah,
I know he's written them. I know he's written them, and let me tell you why. Because he is actually innocent, and so they know that.
Right.
And there's a second writ pending. You're only entitled to one writ, okay? But if there is some newly discovered evidence, you can have another one. And so although they got the DNA tested, which was the newly discovered evidence because DNA didn't exist, the judge denied it. It's been appealed. It's a second writ is being filed to say that, well, he's actually innocent then. That's
right. Well, why don't they just print a bunch of pictures of this judge and plaster them all over town, on every telephone pole in every neighborhood in Houston?
It's not even the judge, it's the DA's office. The DA's office.
It's in the district attorney's office.
Yeah, the district attorney's office could join in and say he's actually innocent. What Tina's trying to say is that in Dallas County, after they get the evidence back, that DA is agreeing and asking the court to go ahead and dismiss the case. Our district attorney's office is saying no, 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 and fighting it. So when the DA is saying he's still guilty, even though the evidence says he's not, the defense is saying let him go, and then the judge, being a former prosecutor, is doing the same thing and just going along with the prosecutors. But if we had a prosecutor that said, like Tina said, believed in the science to exonerate, just like they believe in the science to convict, then he would be out of there. So it starts with the DA's office. Judges have less power than you think. DAs bring charges, dismiss charges. Right. Judges just go along with it. But if judges are supposed to be the referee between the two parties and manage the huge dockets, because each court has 1,000 cases pending. But generally, when you have a judge that's just going to always side with one side, we have a one-sided system. I agree with you. Something should be done, but that's why I'm doing this show.
Well, yes, because I've experienced a friend of mine's son, charges was dropped after he had been in prison, I think, about 5 or 6 years, and the boy did 31 years flat. Rape, supposedly rape.
I think rape is the most misunderstood one. I think that's the crime. In my 20 years of practicing law, that's the crime that more people are innocent of that are doing prison time for, more than any other crime. I mean, it's innocent people in prison, certainly. But I think rape is the number one. Not that people don't get raped, and I don't want to minimize that because, like I said, I know 40% of all young women are touched inappropriately as a child, and I was. So I'm just saying, I mean, that happens to a lot because I was in a bad environment. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but a lot of times people who are abused will say somebody else abused them to get out of a situation.
Right. I told my grandson, no mean no. And you out there, and he graduated from Bel Air High. I said, don't you ever go to none of those kids' houses. Those little girls talking about give me a hug. You better keep your hands off of them.
Or have a whole bunch of money to defend yourself.
Yes, ma'am, and I can't do it because my money is gone. He didn't spend my money going to college.
All right. At least you spend it for college and not a lawyer to keep them out of jail.
That's right.
Because a lot of our clients, unfortunately, are having to spend 401k money and all kind of money to try to help us fight for their kids' innocence.
Yeah, because it's bad enough you got these kids trying to come back home, and that's another burden. Megan, all right, y'all have a great day.
Thank you for calling. Don't forget to vote, okay?
I'll call you next week.
Call me next week. See you later.
All right, babe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so we have 4 minutes. This time went by really fast, didn't it, Shalette?
Yes, it did.
Do you feel a little relief because you got some things off your chest?
Yes, I do. And I would like to say this to the young lady. If she's listening, or her family member, or her mom, I sat in that courtroom and with tears in my eyes behind the statements that you made and allegations towards my brother. And I also looked into your mom's eyes, and you took 25 years of my life and my brother away from me. And it saddens me. I don't say I hate you because I can't get my place in heaven if I say that. So I have to forgive you. But I'm just letting you know you took a whole lot of years from us, and I still pray for you right today.
Well, Shalette, like I said, it takes a lot of courage for you to talk about your brother's case and your own abuse as a child. If anybody has any questions about this case or something similar, Shalette plans to come back on the show July 11th, and we'll explore it a little bit more. We'll explore her life, her brother's life, and some of the other fallouts to an awful environment, sexual abuse in foster care, and how some kids can come out bad, some kids can come out good. We'll talk about some of the other siblings who were with her in the foster care. I think you'll find it very interesting. So have your questions ready. We have 2 minutes. Please, I will keep encouraging you to learn more about the criminal justice system, to please register to vote, to please exercise your right to vote in November. There are many judges who will be up for election. The presidential election is very, very important. I'm on the ticket with Obama. Tina Watson's on the ticket with Obama out of Fort Bend County. I'm in Harris County. But get involved. You just need to be involved. You need to come to jury duty. You need to be fair and impartial. We need to make sure that the right rapists are going to prison and the wrong ones are being found not guilty. We need to make sure that that happens. We want a fair and equitable system. Tina, let me let you say something before I say my last remark.
Well, the criminal justice system is a process, as you've just stated before. And we, unfortunately, are part of the process when we're charged with crimes and when we're convicted of crimes. We need to be part of the process as jurors. We need to be part of the process as persons who understand the law. We need to be part of the process on the positive side, because too many times, unfortunately, we're part of the process on the negative side. So I think what Ms. King is saying is very important. Her show is extremely important because, unfortunately, it tells about those times in the process where there's a failure. Yes. And as a result of that, you have the pain and the harm that family members go through. And it's not just one person's life, it's the family's life as well. So I hope that everyone take these cases very seriously. These are real cases, these are real lives, and understand that it's a process and we all have to participate for it to be successful.
And Tina Watson, thank you so much for that comment. And that's what I am trying to emphasize. We all have to be a part of the process. We pay, our tax dollars pay for the DA's office, pay for the police, pays for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and we want to do it fairly. We pay for so many things with our tax dollars. Please be a part of the process. Encourage younger people to be a part of the process. The 97.9 The Box crowd, the Section 8, people on Section 8 to be a part. Everybody's a part of the process. The people in Bel Air, the people in River Oaks, we should all be a part of the process to, as a community, to make sure the right thing is done. I don't want anyone to ever think that we don't want for people not to be punished for their crimes. But we do want to expose and understand the criminal justice system more. And we want you to call and ask your questions. I'm giving you a vehicle and I'm giving you a voice to ask your questions. Please tune in next Wednesday night from 6:30 to 7:30. You can watch us on the World Wide Web. You can see us at, this is the Houston Media Source. You can see us at www.hmstv.org, anywhere on your computers, Comcast 17 and UVerse 99. Thank you for your time, and I hope you've learned something tonight.